This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Kicking off hour 2 of Money Moves live on VSiN, the sports betting network, Sirius XM channel 158. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Coming up in 30 minutes, VSiN NBA betting analyst, host of Hardwood Handicappers, writer.
His actual title, there we go.
Senior
Getting
editor.
there
We
you
found
go.
it. We found it. Zach Cohen going to join us a little bit later. We're going to go through the NBA card. 7-game slate today. Steph Curry officially back, so that'll be a good one with Warriors and Timberwolves a little bit later. We also have the Army-Navy game we're going to preview in a bit. Best bets at the end of the hour. I wanted to bring up this one thing real quickly because we referenced it going to break when you were talking about your favorite Pokemon cards. And then we had a guest, and so I got off track and I forgot to bring this back up. The card I was thinking about was the Kabuto card. Mm-hmm. And have you heard of the Kabuto King?
Yes.
Is this not like a wild story that he just chose this random card and tried to collect every single one of them that he can find?
Yes, and look, I'm not good at economics, but I believe then by doing that and acquiring all of them, he then drives up the price. Yeah, he corners the market and then drives up the price on them, and then they're worth something, which is very odd to me. Again, I'm not really great with economics, so.
But he's not selling them for him. He's got this gigantic collection. And he's put an eBay thing up where he signed one of the cards, and he's donating all of the proceeds to St. Jude's for it. So it ended up becoming kind of a cool thing. But why he has this desire and love for this little weird cartoon crab, I don't know.
Why does anybody do anything?
I don't know. Anyway, I just thought it was crazy.
You
like Pokemon. You are nowhere near the Kabuto King.
No, I mean, I enjoy Pokemon. I don't play it anymore. But I will say that your answer as to what your favorite was. But
that was my favorite when I was a little kid.
Have you ever seen, I don't know what it's in reference to or the context of it, but the gif of Steve Buscemi where he walks up and he's in a junior high and he says, "What's up, fellow kids?" Like that's you.
With the skateboard.
Yeah, that was your answer. Like that was it right there.
I don't know.
What's up, fellow Pokemon lovers? I love Charizard.
But who doesn't like a baby Charmander? Holographic.
It's a completely different Pokemon. Anyway.
Yeah, it's the baby one. I like Charizard and Charmander. Those are my two favorites. But is that also like a cliche, lame answer?
I mean, come on now.
Whatever.
We move on.
All right, let's get to it's a Friday, and so what?
Just no, go ahead. Actually, it'll tie in nicely to this. I apologize.
Every Friday, whether I'm here or not, you do the NFL market power ratings. We got Week 15 up, and we've kind of referenced them in passing of what we might expect when we go through this exercise today. And what are some of the big takeaways when all is said and done?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple of things here. First off, I think every single week, if there's a quarterback injury, that's kind of where you start. Where does the market slip or where do they go? So there's two names that stick out, obviously, because we might have two new quarterbacks. Let's go to the 74 line here, Stormy, where the Indianapolis Colts, how far they have fallen. As high as the 83 line at one point, but injuries and this slide have caused them to go all the way down to be considered near equals with the Commanders, the Giants, just ahead of teams like the Browns, the Raiders, who we'll get to. As you see, I have Rivers question mark here because I don't know if the market is assuming that Phillip Rivers is getting the start today. The Indianapolis Colts are being very, very cloak and dagger about whether or not he's going to be out there. He is practicing. He's been out there. But their depth chart they released earlier this week only had Riley Leonard on it. The quote earlier this week or earlier today, I don't know if you saw this from Shane Steichen. I don't think I got the opportunity to read you this quote because we got sidetracked. He was asked how Brett Rippon factors into the quarterback conversation since he's on the actual active roster. From Shane Steichen, quote, "Yeah, he's progressing well. He's part of the 3 quarterbacks we have on the roster right now." Okay, so in other words, that is not going to happen. So the whole point here is, will the market downgrade the Colts further if Rivers is officially announced as the starter? My guess would be yes. Wouldn't yours?
I would agree, yes.
Right? I mean, we saw the market inch towards Seattle when the news was coming down. You had the great point earlier in the week that as this first came down, the outward noise was such a good story. This is so fun. He's fat. Like, this is great. But the market was heading in the opposite direction, which was, no, this is terrible, and they're probably going to be worse. So if he officially gets the start, I would assume we move over 14, and we're really in the camp of this is going to be a beatdown in favor of Seattle. So they could slip a little bit farther is my whole point here.
Something that surprised me, and I'm curious your opinion on it, is how the Raiders aren't on the 70 line.
Okay, so this is the great part about this. By the way, we do have breaking news in the NBA. We'll get to Zach, Victor Wembanyama. It looks like we've talked about this all week long. He is likely to return Saturday in the NBA Cup.
So weren't we assuming that?
Yes.
So I just saw this tweet from Shams, but that was the assumption, and he hasn't had the practice that will confirm it. So why is this news?
Well, I think it's news because we were just speculating based on, like, their actions, right? He was traveling with the team. Like, it seemed very likely at some point he was going to be back soon.
Sure. Like, we thought he was going to play last game, but he didn't. So the assumption, I think, then shifted to this game.
Yeah. Like, when an injured player makes a road trip, the expectation is that he's going to start at some point. So I think it's news and that we finally have the official date. Okay. And by the way,
but we don't have the official date.
What do you mean?
Because he said final clearance will come after today's practice.
Yeah, but I mean,
which they haven't had yet.
He's coming. He's back.
Okay.
He's back. Anyway, all right. So you asked about Kenny Pickett. So I think this is pretty interesting. Why aren't they on the 70 line is your point. So you're asking why aren't the Raiders considered the worst team in the NFL?
And because to me they are.
So that would mean that you, this weekend, would love to lay it with the Philadelphia Eagles. If they're, because to your point,
but I also maybe just don't think that the Eagles are as high as.
Oh, see, that's a good rebuttal. Because again, for our audience, we've been doing this all year long. But if you're just joining us, what this exercise is we take home field advantage out of these lines and we form power ratings from the betting lines that are currently available in the market. It gives us a sense of what the betting market is like. So what the tree Stormy is barking up here is that the Eagles and the Raiders, they have to maintain their distance from one another in these power ratings because they are playing each other, and we are deriving these power ratings from the number that is currently available. So maybe the Eagles are too high, but the difference between the two, to your point, should remain the same. So either way, your whole point is here from like a future standpoint, from a market rating standpoint, maybe the Eagles are too high, but you're equally as low on the Raiders. But if you're going to move one, you got to move the other. They are tied to each other for eternity, at least for this week, as we are deriving the ratings from there. But what I wanted to point out about the Raiders is guess what they were last week on this power rating, if you remember. Or
Where?
not.
I do not.
They were on the 72 line. And what have I been asking you all week long since Geno Smith got hurt?
Is it really a downgrade for Kenny Pickett to be the starting quarterback? And this tells you no.
Market says no. Or let's bring it back to your point. What if the market's telling you it's an upgrade and that if Geno was starting, they would have been on the 70 line? See, it's an
interesting dynamic.
Yeah, so I just think in general, look, Pickett, the dynamic at quarterback, Kenny Pickett, I think, is either equal to or maybe a slight upgrade. We will see if that's the case. But the two quarterbacks, I think, take the headlines here with where we're going to look. If you have one more question, go ahead.
Yeah, another thing also that stuck out to me, in addition to, I think, the Eagles being too high, I was surprised to see the Broncos being on the same line as the Ravens. That does not check out to me.
Okay, so this is what we asked the question, right? So I talked to you about this, and this is why I do have a Broncos teaser. I don't want to get fully in here. And we're starting to see the hooks disappear on the 2.5s out there. But again, they are playing the Green Bay Packers, 2 for home field. So that would mean a 4-point difference on a neutral between Green Bay and Denver. So what do you do with Green Bay? Because Green Bay, I think, clearly has been upgraded here at this point. Mm-hmm. So you put them on the 85 line, and you can say, okay, if we put them there, 2-point difference or thereabouts, we have to put them here with this dynamic between the two of them. 85 for the Packers, 81 for the Broncos. There's your 4-point difference. So I'm with you in that when I did this morning, that was one of the ones that stuck out to me. The Broncos have consistently been on the 82 line. Unless your argument is that the Green Bay Packers should be equals to the Los Angeles Rams from a power rating standpoint, which you could do, that would bring the Broncos back up to the 82 line where they've been for most of the season. But even then, I think you, and maybe you're going to say this, do you just quibble with the fact that the 4-point gap on a neutral between Green Bay and Denver is just a little too much? Or is it just where the Broncos are at?
I'm also lower on Green Bay in general. So I would say that that's too much.
Okay, then you would, yeah. So then,
and Broncos. I do have the Broncos as a teaser leg as well. But my first thought when I looked at the card this week, and it scared me to the point where I didn't just bet Broncos plus 2.5, was like, why are they home dogs to this team?
Sure.
I don't get it. Which then threw me off of it.
At the very least, my thought would be make it pick. because then you could say Green Bay's better, maybe by about 2 points. If you throw this back up, if I were to tell you that like the Packers were more on like the 83 line and like the 84 line, and the Broncos were like the 82, just a 2-point difference between the two, I would say that fits a little bit more. But the fact that they're this far apart from one another, I think, is a very shocking distance to me.
This doesn't have to do with market power ratings, but just another thing I thought was interesting as you go through the card for this week was that we have two teams, one of them being the Broncos, the other being the New England Patriots, riding 10-game win streaks that are home underdogs this week. It's just wild to think about.
So that was the other one. The Bills, really quick, and maybe we can get back to this because there's a couple of dynamics that we haven't really hit on yet. But so the Bills, for example, I think their power rating's been rising. They've been playing a little bit better ever since that tumultuous loss to the Miami Dolphins. I know they slipped up there against the Houston Texans, but if you see the Texans, there's a little bit of respect there. But how about that for the Patriots? I mean, again, look at this difference between the two. If you're going to tell me that there's about a 1.5-point difference, if the Bills are favored by 1.5 points on the road, it's about a 3.5-point difference on a neutral. They're really that much better than the New England Patriots.
Especially considering everyone's argument that I've heard asking for the Bills or betting the Bills that week is just like, well, it's Josh Allen.
Yep.
Just give me Josh Allen. I don't think that that's a reasonable answer when all is said and done. That said, remember everybody, as the official horse racing partner of VSiN, First Bet is built for bettors who demand more. First Bet isn't just about placing a bet. They're all about helping bettors of all levels with proprietary AI handicapping tools to give you data-driven insights and help you make more informed bets. First Bet's in-app tools give you win, place, and show probabilities for each runner. You can quickly and easily identify good value plays, improve your ROI. Right now, you can take advantage of their limited time $250 sign-up offer. To claim your bonus, though, you need to use our promo code VSiN250 when you sign up in the First Bet app or at firstbet.com. That's promo code VSiN250. Some more NFL still to come. We got to take a quick break, but coming back, we'll also hit on some of the college football that's coming up this weekend. For years, the handicap in the Army-Navy game has been death, taxes, and under. Does that still ring true after 3 straight overs in the series? We'll discuss that and more coming up on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
So one other game I still want to discuss as we continue to unpack the Week 15 market power ratings before we get into some of this college football action. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. One of the more interesting lines, I think, of the week is Chiefs and Chargers, especially given the way that the Chiefs have performed lately. I know it surprised you when we were discussing this game yesterday to see them 5.5-point favorites. When you actually looked at it mapped out as part of the power ratings, what'd you think?
I mean, I'm ready to get hurt. I'm sorry. At some point, we've got to budge. At some point. And look, this is, I was going back at it. I think this is the lowest rating. This is tied for the lowest rating for Kansas City that we've had throughout the year. So, because I have this all in a doc, so I can go back and look at, all of the spots in which these teams have been. And, week 4, when they were in the midst of, remember, they got off to their rough start, they were 500. They went down to the 82 line. But since then, they have not dipped past 84. This is the lowest point since then for the Kansas City Chiefs in our market power ratings. And I just feel like at some point, don't we have to adjust a little bit here? Don't we have to, again, going back to this aspect of stubbornness that we see with the way we rate teams, at some point we have to realize this team is flawed. Patrick Mahomes is still a great quarterback. I saw a lot of that dynamic on social media the other day. But this team doesn't really have it. And to, again, just come out here and say, just like last week, I sat here. Look, I know I was seeing double yesterday or last Sunday when I was sitting in that booth. I know I saw 5.5 on that line for the Kansas City Chiefs against the Houston Texans. And again, I see this here where they're just getting driven up against the Los Angeles Chargers. I just don't understand why we're here with Kansas City when every return the last few weeks has been they're just not as good as the market thinks they are. So that's why I say I'm willing to get hurt. I'm willing to come out and be wrong. I'm willing to watch the Chargers get bludgeoned. I'm willing to watch Justin Herbert run for his life and get destroyed to me, and I think my record on these are poor. I call them plays of principle. I just don't agree with the number. It's a play of principle. Let's go Chargers.
I told you there was another teaser leg that I was going to pair up with the Broncos. It was a dog you liked. It is the Los Angeles Chargers. And I'm going to give you a little bit of confirmation bias just from some ATS recent history. Chiefs, last 5 games, 0-5 against the spread. Chiefs 1-7 against the spread against teams with winning records this season. They are also, what was this last one? Oh, the Chargers, 5-0 ATS on short rest under Jim Harbaugh as well. So a lot of things just from a number standpoint backing your thought process there. Let's go from the NFL to a little college football. We got Army-Navy coming up tomorrow, the 126th meeting in the series between these two. And it's always such a fun game because of the pageantry, the military element of it. These teams are so familiar. They know each other so well. The game means so much. This game also, by the way, because both Army and Navy beat Air Force this week, is also for the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, which is something that's additionally very important to both of these programs. 8 of the last 11 meetings have all been decided by one score, and we are seeing Navy get bet up in this spot from 4.5 to, I just looked behind me here at the screen at Circa, we're out to as far as 7 in this game, total 38.5.
So what do you think? I want to hear what you think.
I like a lot of things in this game.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really have an opinion on it one way or the other, outside of the mouth breather. You know what? 6 seems like a lot in a heated rivalry game in which there's not going to be a lot of points.
So that's the thing, is right, like unders, I said it before we went to break, death taxes and Army-Navy unders have been a way of life for such a long time in this series. I'm not so sure it's going to be that low scoring. So total's 38.5. There was this string of 17 straight years where we saw this thing go under, and it's an auto bet, just blind it, open the account, cover your eyes, you're playing the under no matter what the number is, no matter how ugly or how low it is. And yet, it's been 3-0 to the over since, depending on some of these closing numbers. In 2022, you need a double overtime to get there, but it did. 2023, it depended on the number. And listen how low this total was in that game, by the way. 27.5 to 28.5. It landed right on 28. So it depended where you had the closing number on that one, whether or not it went over, but a handful of places it did. Game ended on a safety. Last year, it was a true over with Navy winning by margin. And 31-13, that final score. They're the better team again going into this week's game, and I understand why they're getting played here. Something that I kind of want to do, and I don't know if this is just like full degen mode, but I want to do a same-game teaser in college football.
Okay.
I want to take Navy to win this game and go over 32.5.
Okay. Look, I don't have any sort of real intelligent pushback on something like that.
I love it.
In any way.
Navy, so 9-2 on the year. They started the season so well, 7-0 to start the year. They dropped 2 of their last 4 games. In those 2 games against North Texas and Notre Dame, who are both very good teams, Blake Horvath was injured in the game against North Texas, doesn't play against the Irish. He made it back the last 2 weeks. They knock off USF and Memphis. And Horvath, I looked through the numbers from last year's game. The dude was awesome. If he has a smidge of the performance he had against Army last year, they're going to be off and running again. Literally, 204 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Only had 4 completions in the game, goes for 107 and another 2 scores.
Sure.
They also have a ton of the same pieces that carried over from last year to this year and have an opportunity for the first time in midshipman history to have back-to-back 10-win seasons. I really like Navy to win. I think they have all the motivation factors, and I think they're the better team.
Yeah.
With the total, the thing that comes into play here is because, yes, both of these run that very unique style of offense, and Army is among the best in the country at time of possession. They like those slow, run the ball, lengthy, long drives. How long is it going to take you? But Navy has a much more explosive offense of the two. So if your defense can stand up and get the ball back, or just like force them to try to catch up with you, I think we have an opportunity for an over here.
Sure. I mean, I think it makes sense. One of the things that when you look over Army and what has been somewhat surprising for their offense is they have been wildly inefficient on the ground. Like expected points added, they're 72nd in the country. If you look at non-explosive plays, so just more like down to down, what are you looking at here for this team? They're below the 50th percentile. So on the non-explosive plays, they're very inefficient. Army is, that is. I was looking in this in the sense of 6 seems like a lot only because it's a rivalry. They're familiar with each other. You throw the record books out, right, when 2 teams like this play one another.
Hypothetically.
Yes. But if you actually like look at the breakdown, I understand why you're here. I do think it's somewhat telling, I guess, that it's not getting to 7, but maybe it does by the time we get the kickoff tomorrow.
One thing, too, even though like Army's had their inefficiencies on offense, Navy has really struggled against the run on defense this year as well. 114th in run defense grade, their 5th worst tackling grade in college football. It's like, there's just a lot of things here that set up to me to like this. So we'll see how it goes. There's also an article up, by the way, up at vsin.com. Adam Burke, who does so much of our college football content, has his breakdown of the game there.
Have you been to an Army-Navy game?
And I want to say, have I ever?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
That's a CBS, like, year after year
Just curious,
type of a thing.
have you ever been
I would
to one?
love to. I've been to Navy. I've done one game. It was a couple years ago when Cincinnati was the number 2 ranked team in the country, and Army almost upset them. It came down to the final. I mean, Navy almost upset them.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Ended up being an awesome game. Desmond Ridder. I remember specifically, very vividly, everyone had been talking to me about like what an amazing leader he was and all of this stuff. And then I always seem to get the bad game of that guy where he doesn't exhibit any of the traits that everyone tells you he has.
Okay.
It was a tough day.
Or everybody's always
That
exaggerating.
said, one of the best things about this Army-Navy game this week,
Okay.
the concessions. Every other college football venue out there, y'all are playing checkers while Army-Navy is playing chess when it comes to the food. Let's throw this up on the screen if we can. Forget your mini helmet with soft serve ice cream. We got burnt end nachos that are served in a tank,
What?
chicken tendies in a Humvee or Carrier, tin crab destroyer nachos. I'm not a big crab person, JVT, but even this was appealing to me.
I like crab. Well, in certain instances.
Kettle chips with Maryland crab dip, sweet corn pico, creamy queso blanco, top it all off with an Old Bay sprinkled lump crab and chiles.
That sounds good.
That sounds like, I don't even like crab like that. That sounds awesome.
I'm not a big crab fan. Somebody would have to tell me exactly what it is, or I'll look it up. Out in San Francisco, they have the for the Giants ballpark. They have like the crab sandwiches.
Okay.
Out in the outfield, those are really, really good. So I'm down with those. So if you present crab to me in the right way, like I'm not big. I know a lot of people get rotted up over like going out to get crab legs and stuff. I'm not that guy.
Okay.
But if you prepare it properly, I'm down.
Plus, there's
Crazy crab
just
sandwich. Thank you. Yep.
something about getting your food served to you in like a tank or
Sure.
a Humvee that just feels awesome. Also, do you think I'm going to be disowned from my family that my husband is an Army vet and I'm like, bet Navy?
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Well, I guess it is a pretty big deal.
I
huh?
picked them to win in the SGT. Yeah, it's
Is he into
it's a
this?
big deal.
I know you guys are going
Yeah.
to be here. Is
He will
in?
be rooting hard for Army tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's very good. Well, then, yeah,
I just
probably.
can't tell him about you. Nobody tell him, okay?
Very true. Well, he doesn't watch.
It's our little secret.
He tells me he doesn't watch, but then he references our show every time I see him, so then I don't know. I don't know what the truth is. But an Armyman would never lie. One of the best vessels to carry food, because this reminds me of that, the New York Yankees for a time, if not maybe still do. Do you see the cup thing that they used to have? So it was a big plastic cup that you would have your drink in, and the straw would go through a plastic thing that would hold your chicken fingers and your fries.
Oh, that's cool.
So you could have like everything all together at once. You could just hold it like that.
Okay, I like that. Baseball does a lot of good stuff. Whoever the team is that does just like that big bucket of chocolate chip cookies, just sign me up. All of the above. So good. And reminder, so even though this week there's no college football playoff games yet, we are getting ahead. Oh, yeah, that looks great.
Yep.
We're getting ahead of the action up at vsin.com. The college football playoff betting guide already out now. In addition to thoughts on the playoff games, we've got action on a handful of other bowl games as well. Full previews for as many games as you can think of. Steve Makinen's power ratings, bowl picks across the network. Get your guide right now, either as a VSiN Pro subscriber or as a standalone for just $14.99. VSiN.com/CFP. We're shifting gears to a little NBA action. Zach Cohen joining us coming up next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Biggest slate of the week in the NBA tonight, which includes a marquee matchup between the Warriors and Timberwolves. Steph Curry going to be back in that one. Plus, we also got some news about 30 minutes ago from Shams Charania and Victor Wembanyama to help us break down all things NBA. Excited to welcome into Money Moves Zach Cohen on the Progressive Guest Line, senior editor of VSiN.com, host as well of the Hardwood Handicappers podcast. You can get wherever you get your podcast. Zach, how's it going? What's going on, buddy?
Pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Rocking and rolling, ready for the 7-game slate today. Well, let's start with Victor Wembanyama. I know that we're looking ahead to Saturday already with the NBA Cup underway, but they've got the OKC Thunder coming up, and it appears that he's likely to go. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think he's going to play today. Like, it looks like he really wanted to play on Wednesday, and they decided to hold him out just to be a little bit extra cautious because, I think we've talked about it with every sport now. Like, these calf strains are now the scariest things in the world because of the Achilles tendon connection. So I do think we're going to see him out there. And I am kind of thinking that the Thunder are going to lose at some point in this tournament. And that's strictly because they hung a minus 115 on them before this tournament started for them to win the NBA Cup. And that just seems like the type of thing that everybody in the world would have wanted to jump on. And it's not the type of thing that I think odds makers would have wanted to make so widely available unless they really saw a spot that was troubling for OKC at some point. So I don't know when it's going to happen, but I do kind of feel like they're going to lose at some point.
I mean, this might be it if Wemby's going to be out there, right? Gives him a little bit more size, gives him something to deal with. This Spurs team has been great. Before we get to some of your plays, let's zoom out on San Antonio. They have done more than tread water without Victor Wembanyama. They've been playing like one of the better teams in the NBA. So what is big picture, the future for San Antonio this year? Screw the, moving forward of the picks and everything they own. What's the future for San Antonio this year? What's their ceiling?
I mean, I think this year you're hoping to win a playoff series. Like, I know that sounds a little bit lame and boring for a team that has been so good to start the year, but I still kind of think that the top tier in the Western Conference is OKC, Houston, and Denver. I think that maybe San Antonio is right outside that, competing with Los Angeles. We just saw the floor with the Lake without Wemby in LA. So I kind of do think that this is a team that might be better than LA moving forward and maybe the fourth best team in the West. I just think that they're a move away from actually joining that contender group, which is why when we talked on Hardwood Handicappers the other day, I brought up, do they make the move for Giannis? And it's a really tough call. Like, I would understand them not doing it, but they have the assets to do it if they wanted to.
On Hardwood Handicappers yesterday, Stormy, I had this great idea. I think the Celtics are maybe the number's a little too high. I think I might like the Bucks tonight, and Zach talked me out of it. You know who won that game?
Oh, you poor soul.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks a lot, Zach.
There are a lot of good opinions on Hardwood Handicappers, too, as we're trying to get people to listen to the pod, which I was listening to a little bit of this morning as well, Zach. And to go to the team on the other side of this matchup in OKC again, JVT made the comment earlier this week. I mean, could OKC be an odds-on favorite at this point now with how good they've performed? You brought up SGA, despite him being the shortest shot on the board for MVP, being a reasonable bet. How can people get creative to bet on the Thunder if they're able, maybe not to keep up this pace, but still have a super hyper successful year?
Yeah, I mean, I just think at plus 130 odds, which is still available on SGA right now, that's a really good value play for him to win MVP because I think in years past, like I said this on the podcast, hopefully about repeating too much, but like Joker has been the guy that has had the better advanced stats profile than SGA over the last couple of years, and that includes last season when SGA won the award. Now you're talking about SGA leaping him in some of the most, trustworthy advanced stats categories. And he has the counting stats. Like, he's been one of the best scorers in the league 4 years now, but this is a team that's now 24-1. I think we're going to see them win 72 plus games and probably 74 plus. I think that everybody that has that bet is going to end up being pretty happy, especially if they made it earlier in the year. But I do think they're going to be, a historically good team, and SGA is going to get the credit for that. Like, I think that this is not the year to give it to Joker. I mean, there is sometimes, voter fatigue, but I don't think you're going to see that this season.
All right, let's get to some bets tonight and what we've got going on. Let's start at 4:10 p.m. Pacific time. Stormy's Charlotte Hornets will play host to the Chicago Bulls. What do we got here? Numbers 3, totals 229.5, side total or player prop.
Yeah, I have a Ryan Kalkbrenner over 8.5 points in this game, and it's really just because this Bulls team is last in the league at defending around the basket. And, Nikola Vucevic is a good offensive player, but not somebody that's very good on the defensive end of the floor. So I think that Kalkbrenner, a player that is very good at finishing around the rim and scores 92% of his points at the basket, is going to end up having a pretty good hit game here, at least offensively.
I know LaMelo Ball ruled out already. Brandon Miller back for the last couple games, having that shoulder wrapped. Like, how potentially do those injuries impact Charlotte moving forward?
Just ask him, can we get our win total
Can we get my win total? Come on, I just need help here.
It was only like 25, so yes, you definitely can. I think that they could win that many games. Like, it's just disappointing because this should be a team we're talking about winning 40-plus games. It just has not worked out whatsoever, and that's like despite the fact that they clearly nailed the draft pick with Con Knipple. I think that he's a perfect fit there, and they just haven't been able to get like the depth going. They haven't been able to keep these guys healthy, and I also think that they're really well coached too. So it's just been a really unfortunate, kind of mix of events there.
See, we got hope. Now, Rich.
I was trying to ask it from a more strategic standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't know why you had to call me out like that.
Rich would be her father who, what number did he get?
27.5?
It might be a little tough. Sorry, buddy. All right, we'll move on.
He's going to send you some hate mail via my text.
I was going to say, he doesn't know where to find me. Indiana and Philadelphia, right now we're looking at 7 totals, 224.5. This Pacers team, since they've got healthy, but a little plucky.
Yeah, I really like Indiana tonight. I mean, they're 8-2 against the spread in their last 10 games. I wrote it at vsin.com, but it kind of like coincides with them giving a bigger role to Jay Huff, who's done a very good job of filling in for Miles Turner. He's like a very good shooter. He's a really good shot blocker, and just kind of giving them serviceable minutes at the center spot. And that's really the only weak spot on this team, because I think that even without Halliburton, this is a team that has very good guard play. I mean, you're talking about Nembhard and McConnell at the point guard spot, Mathurin at shooting guard. They do have, Nesmith coming back eventually. And I think that Siakam's still playing like an all-star. So this is still a talented team and a very well-coached team. And I think that they can kind of prey upon, the Sixers being a really weak defensive team. I think the Philly, for as exciting as that was to start the year with Edgecombe and Maxey just looking like one of the most electric backcourts in the NBA, they can struggle to guard. And the only place that I would have been really worried about with this matchup specifically is if Joel Embiid would have been able to go out and dominate the center spot for Indiana. But Embiid has not looked good this year, and the Pacers are playing a little bit better inside. So I think this is going to end up being a really close game. I actually think the Pacers are going to have a shot to win it late.
Zach Cohen, senior editor of vsin.com, host of the Hardwood Handicappers podcast, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Rumor has it you've also got a little money line parlay you want to throw in the account today?
Yeah, I have the Pistons money line against the Hawks, which will be the third meeting between the two teams. Detroit is 2-0 against them. I parlayed that with Mavericks money line against the Nets. On the Detroit side, I just think that this team is a little bit too weak offensively to win in this specific matchup. I think we've seen it now in the two meetings between these teams. Like, the Pistons are a little bit better defensively than the Hawks are, and I think that Cade Cunningham being on the floor late in a game that might be one score in the final 5 minutes is just a huge difference maker, because he's one of the clutchest players in the entire NBA, and the clutch player of the year odds, do reflect that. So I think this is a game that Detroit should find a way to win. And the other one is just the Mavericks kind of quietly playing some very good basketball ever since they put Ryan Nembhard in as their starting point guard. The offense is now top 10 in the league ever since they made that move and got AD back. And we did see early on, even while this team was losing, they were one of bottom 5 team in the league. In terms of opponents' points per 100. So one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. And I just think that now that the offense is a little bit better, they should be expected to win these games against really bad teams. And the Nets are a little bit plucky, but I do think that in Dallas, you can trust the Mavericks to win.
All right, we want people to read the article, so I'm going to forego the rest of these picks here because we want to go to vsin.com, check it out. Make sure you get there, not only read Zach's article, but everything else we have to offer. Bowl Guide is available as well. You and I and Kelly Bidlin were texting about this the other day. We should start to talk about this now, because this is when you get the value. These college kids look really good, Zach. And for the first overall pick, it's going to be a race. So at this point right now, who would you have your 1, 2, 3 between Devonta Boozer and the kid whose name escapes me from Kansas?
Yeah, I would actually have the kid whose name escapes you, Darren Peterson, number
Peterson,
1. I
Yeah.
know that he's been out to start this year, and he just came back, so we haven't really seen as much of him as we've seen from Devonta and Boozer. But I just do think that having an elite on-ball prospect is going to trump all. And I know it might be a little bit more position of need for the top teams in this draft, because I do think that the top 3 in this draft are very close to one another, and it's going to end up being what type of player you want in your system. But I think that Peterson is just an electric scorer off the dribble. He has really good size. Kind of reminds me of Cade Cunningham a little bit, but he's a little bit more athletic. And I just think that there's a lot of teams in the league that can use that. And then Boozer, I think that you look at him amongst the 3 players and you say that he probably has like the worst athletic profile. Like, he's not the most explosive leaper. He's not that fast, but I think that he processes the game at like a world-class level, not like Joker-like. He's not the best passer in the world, but the way the game comes to him is crazy easy. And I do think that he's still got good size. He still has a really good skill set. He's like a big 4, that maybe could play some 3, but I just really like the way that he's going to fit in the NBA, where there's going to be a lot of spacing for him to kind of just put his scoring chops on display.
Zach Cohen, appreciate your time as always. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
If you guys haven't already, make sure you check out the Hardwood Handicappers podcast. And it's interesting how different those markets are compared to the Wooden Award when you see Peterson 55-1 on that odds board. Cameron Boozer, by the way, -150, odds-on favorite already for the Wooden Award coming out of Duke. We got to step aside. When we come back, we're wrapping things up with our best bets going into the weekend, plus one game we missed in the NBA that I do want to get your opinion on quickly. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Thank you to Zach Cohen, last segment, for talking to us, breaking down the NBA card that we've got coming up today. If you missed any of it, you can always download Money Moves in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts, or the Hardwood Handicappers pod. One game we didn't get an opportunity to cover that JVT, is you being another one of our big marquee voices in the NBA at the network, wanted to get your opinion on here quickly. The Golden State Warriors, 1.5-point favorite against the Minnesota Timberwolves today, total 131.5, and this is the first game back in a little bit for Steph Curry, coming back from the thigh. Anything that stood out to you here?
Yeah, I mean, Curry's going to be back. Anthony Edwards is questionable, so keep that in mind as well. Draymond will not play today for personal reasons, but at the end of the day, getting Steph Curry back is only going to help. Had a couple of games during the stretch in which he was out, in which they had scored fewer than 100 points. Would this shock you to hear, Stormy, that when Stephen Curry is not on the floor, the Golden State Warriors offense has some issues when he is not available? In the minutes without Steph Curry on the floor, they have a 109.1 offensive rating that is good for the 12th percentile. Not a good thing. You don't want a low number. You want a high number when we're talking percentiles, folks. So he's going to help him out in that regard. I think defensively you're going to take a hit when Draymond's not out there. And this is the interesting thing about this team, and I think it speaks to the loss of Draymond. Despite the fact that they rank in the 12th percentile on offense without Steph Curry, they actually have outscored their opponents in those minutes by less than a point per possession because they're so good on defense. So, in other words, I think they'll miss Draymond, but the fact that Curry's going to be out there is pretty big. And obviously, whether or not Anthony Edwards will play here is going to loom over where this number eventually closes. But I think right now, given what we know, Golden State's pretty fair. Wouldn't be surprised if we see this maybe flip as we get closer to game time. But that's about it. I don't really have anything here. Total as well, 231.5. Moving up because I think the absence of Draymond doesn't really help. This could be a little bit more of a higher scoring game if Anthony Edwards ends up playing. Okay,
let's crank through the best bets as well before we look ahead to...
Before we do, I do have a couple of emails and responses that I would like to read. moneymoves@vsin.com. Tom checks in, would like our thoughts, and I want to give this to you because you have feelings on this. Says, hey, guys, got lucky with the Packers last week at -6.5 due to Caleb Williams not being able to lob a 20-yard pass to his wide-open tight end. So now I'm doubling down on the Packers this weekend against the Broncos. I think they're the far superior team. What do you think?
Far superior team? I don't know if I agree with that. Like I said, I thought it was strange to look at the Broncos and see their 2.5-point home dog in this spot. I don't think that the Broncos are all that in a bag of chips like their 10-game win streak would indicate, but I think that that's going to be a close game. I don't know if Packers are going to be dominant on the road.
So, Tom, I will call myself Packer curious because, like, I look at this and go, I mean, remember when we were watching them struggle with the Giants?
Wrong,
yeah, but we watched them against the Giants, and I asked the question. I was like, really, maybe this is what this team is? But I'll rewind back to like the third week when I was asking the question, like, is this just the best team in the NFC? And they're starting to look like that, but I still don't like. I want consistency from the Green Bay Packers, so that's why I was a coward and just said we'll tease the Broncos up. But I am curious because I think the Packers are capable of covering on the road here, but they have looked disjointed at times, and that has worried me. So I am Packer curious is what I'll call myself.
Since November 2nd, when they lost to the Carolina Panthers, they followed that up with a 10-7 loss to the Eagles.
Yep.
Then you look at the two teams they beat back-to-back weeks in the Giants and the Minnesota Vikings. I don't really know what to take from that. I don't think either of those teams are very good. The Lions, I don't think are very good right now either. And then the Bears, who they beat, who we said, hey, regression has got to come at some point. The fourth quarter stuff has got to finally catch up with them, and it did. You mentioned the gift of Caleb Williams throwing that late game pick. So those are all teams on this 4-game win streak that I just don't think particularly highly of.
Sure.
So I don't know necessarily what to fully take out of that from the Packers' perspective.
Tom also adds in his email, on a side note, I will be in Las Vegas January 23rd to the 30th for Championship Sunday. Can I come by the studio and meet you guys? It would be the highlight of my trip. Love the show. Thanks, Tom in Virginia. Tom, of course, we would love to say hi.
Yes, come on down. That's awesome.
We had a friend come up and show us a note on his phone. He was wearing a Houston Texans hat, said he listened to the show all the time.
That was funny.
We appreciate it.
He saw us during, like, before the show came
Yeah.
on, where we're like laughing with each other like we like each other. He's like, I'm glad that you guys like each other.
That's what he said.
Sometimes
That's right,
I can't tell.
See, you see my
It's
glare. I was
true.
like, don't
We're
let
friends.
people know. Don't let people know. Marco says that he's not a huge crab fan either. Born and raised, lived in all but 2 years of my life in Maryland. Not liking crabs. Blasphemy here. Also says Navy team total 22.5 might be a play.
Yeah, I like that angle.
Because you like the over, correct?
I do.
Or you're teasing it down and you're betting it over.
I mean, but honestly, at the 38, I don't hate the over on that number either. But considering the history between these two programs, it doesn't hurt. I feel like to get a little bit of wiggle room in that, I do feel confident in Navy ultimately winning the game. I just don't know if in a game like this where so many have been decided by one score, close games because of the familiarity and, I mean, passionate hatred they have for one another, that I want to lay a full touchdown. I don't necessarily think I love that. But Navy should be able to score. And we talk about the explosiveness of their offense and what Blake Horvath has been able to do when he's healthy. I like that angle. I'm not going to fight you on it one bit.
Last one before you go. I know you're chomping at the bit, but you did tease this yesterday, so we need an official answer to the question. How many Will Smith songs did you get through as Derek?
Oh, a good chunk. I probably got through about 8.
Okay.
So I thought I did a good job on my drive.
General consensus is favorite song, least favorite song?
My favorite song, which you said, like, doesn't
I just meant,
count.
No, I didn't say it didn't count. I said it was just too far along in his career because I think, what was it?
Switch.
Switch came out in 2005.
Turn around
and I think,
and switch.
Yeah, I think that's when he was
Switch.
well past his prime as a music maker.
So I loved that song until, like, the last 40 seconds when he started saying switcheroo. And then I was like, that's where you lost me. You went from having a really cool song, like you had to have, he always has to have that one corny, weird thing in every song, which I kind of appreciate about him and his style in general. I did really like Summertime as well. I would say those were my top two, was Switch and Summertime, and Miami, also loved. But the thing about Summertime, I wasn't sure if that counted, because if we're talking true Will Smith songs, that's technically a DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince song. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not listed under Will Smith stuff. It's one of those songs that's under that catalog.
It counts. Well, I'm glad you did your homework.
I did. I enjoyed it. Getting jiggy with is not what everyone led me to believe it was going to be.
We can officially put the Will Smith bit to bed. We will have a new thing to make fun of Stormy for next week. Stay tuned.
At best.
By the way, moneymoves@vsin.com if you want to get in touch with the show, or at MeJVT or at Stormy Buonantony. All right, what do you got?
Okay, so I guess coming off of the Army-Navy game, might as well go there as we hit our best bets headed into the weekend. And we will have more, by the way. JVT and I also host the Countdown to Kickoff show and the Live Bet Sunday programming on Sunday here on the network, that final hour leading up to the early slate of games.
Which, by the way, also simulcasts on SiriusXM Mad Dog.
Yes.
So if you're listening there, you'll hear us on Sunday morning.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll have more best bets for the Sunday card then. But for now, Army-Navy, I did throw in the same game teaser. So Navy to win that game in over 32. And then a couple teasers I like in the NFL this week, bringing the Chargers up from 5.5 to 11.5, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Broncos, as we talk about that meeting with the Packers. I feel like that's just a pretty solid teaser leg, getting up from the 2.5 to 8.5, going through both of the key numbers there of the 3 and the 7 in a game that I think most would anticipate as being a closely contested game. And how about this? We did a Dirty Dog segment earlier this week, a Dirty Dogs teaser. The Arizona Cardinals up to 15.5, and the Raiders in a low total game against the Eagles up to 17.5. It's a for funsie. It's a for funsie, but I put it in this morning.
It's dirty.
It's dirty. But you
I like the Cardinals
but I was going to say, you like the you like the Cardinals against the Texans anyways.
Yeah, like that's the side I would be on, yes. I'm not going to play them this week.
I didn't think you would fight. I didn't think you would fight me on that one.
No, if it gets to 10, I'll be on Arizona, but I do think that would be the side I know that's the side I'd rather be on for sure. All right, for me, last night, we'll go back to last night really quickly. Split the 2-player props. Kevin Porter Jr. over 2.5 3-pointers, only hit 1, minus 120. That's a loss. Derek Queen, though, on a final bucket, a dunk, gets over 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So we get there and a split, so a small loss for the day. We add today Browns +8 in the National Football League. This was from earlier in the week. Patriots money line going head-to-head with Will Hill here. Bengals +2.5. Give it to me. Come on now. This team's underrated. The Ravens a little too much. We've talked about it. I'm ready to get hurt. I don't care. Chargers +5.5 against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm ready for my favorite team to be hurt. Seahawks minus 20.5 at 2-1. And then a teaser for you. Commanders +8, Broncos +8.5. A 6-point teaser, getting through those key numbers. Haven't talked much about Commanders Giants, but I'm willing in a lower scoring game to take 8 with Washington.
All right, I will leave you with this final question. Can the Carolina Panthers, for the first time in their last 11 games as a favorite, officially win outright? They are at the Saints this week in a critical game for them to hold on to first place of the NFC South.
No.
No!
I really, the other teaser that I think is really strong is Broncos and Saints. I thought was a really strong teaser. I don't know, man.
Shucks looked good.
Got to see it to believe it. Yeah, he has. He's looked really strong. And, it's funny. The other day I was thinking, I was like, when I was watching Monday night, I was like, who was the Eagles offensive coordinator? It was just one of those things I could not remember. I was like, oh, yeah, it was Kellen Moore, who's the offensive coordinator and is now the head coach of the Saints, who has made Tyler Shuck look maybe kind of like an NFL quarterback.
Oh, man.
I hope I'm wrong.
I need Carolina to get this done. Come on. We've been fighting for you in the division the whole time. We said $5 was too much. We said $3 was too much. Now it's an appropriate pricing. Can you get it done? Can you, for the first time since 2015, win the freaking division? Let's go. Okay, we got to step aside. That's it for us. Follow the money with Mitch and Paul coming up next on This Football Friday.